What's going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome to another FPL video. Today it's the Game Week 30 preview. We're getting close to those blanks and double game weeks. Just one more game week to go until we continue talking about them. Let's be honest, it's not start talking about them. We've been talking about them for weeks. But yes, we're going to look ahead to Game Week 30 and have a quick look back at Game Week 29, which I'm going to kick off straight away. And it really was the week for captain hauls, or lack of, to be honest. I had Pogba. Ended up on -2, missed a penalty in the 94th, 95th minute. It wasn't a great one, to be honest, and then got a yellow card pretty much straight after. So really frustrating. The only good thing I would say, if any of you out there, Captain Pogba, is it was a pretty good week to have a bad week. No one else really did much captaincy-wise. Aguero and Sterling blanked. Aubameyang got minus points. Salah did nothing. Mane did nothing. Hazard got 6 points, but not many people have captained him compared to the other big hitters. So it was frustrating for sure, but I pretty much got a less than 1,000 rank drop. So as far as red arrow go, that's pretty good. I've had 2 pretty good green arrows in the last 4, so happy to, like I say, if I have a bad week, lucky it was a bad week when everyone else pretty much had a bad week as well. Bournemouth defence, I don't know where they came from. Yes, they had no shots the entire game, which was completely strange, but I watched that Man City game, and to be fair, they had a couple of good chances. Sterling in particular, if you captained him, can probably consider yourself unlucky. But I thought Bournemouth defended pretty well. Man City found it pretty hard to break them down, even though they did have a lot of shots, it has to be said. But yeah, Bournemouth defence is it feels like it came out of nowhere, because they're always a team which I think teams are going to score goals against, and I definitely thought that with Man City. I was very worried about not owning Sterling, but in the end it didn't come to anything. So good for me for not having Sterling, but obviously having Aguero, I wanted points from him. And then remember that time Salah scored goals. I don't think we're going to talk much about him in the preview section, but again, blanked, had some really good chances, just a couple of bad touches. I suppose it depends whether you think he's going to keep getting these chances and missing, or he's going to get these chances and eventually convert them. And you'd think with Liverpool's fixtures that are coming up, he's going to continue to get chances. He's going to continue to be involved for sure. And if he can get back to the form he's had previously in the season and last season, of course, then I think the points are coming. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. But we'll see. It's a lot of money tied up in him. I think a lot of people will keep because of the blanks, and for me, that's rightly so. He'll probably be the top captain player in Game Week 31 against Fulham. Again, rightly so, I think, compared to the other fixtures and players we have to choose from in Game Week 31. So it is frustrating for sure, but for me, I think points are coming sooner rather than later. But we'll see. Have to shout out Jimenez anytime he does something. 12-point haul. The guy's a legend. Fair play if you captain him. A few people did tweet me. If you did, tweet me after you've watched this video and let me know. But 12 converted to 24. Brilliant score this week, to be honest, considering how rubbish everyone else did on captains. And then Doherty frustration didn't start. There was some rumours spreading around Twitter from in the nose for Wolves and on the forums and stuff that he was going to miss out. To be fair, they also said that Jota and Jimenez might miss out, and they both played. So make it that what you will, but yeah, frustrating. But nice for my own team to get Fabianski points. Robertson again, although a yellow card. And Wan-Bissaka so close to a 12-pointer, but consolation goal for Burnley at the end was frustrating. So I bought Hazard in the end. Didn't go for David Luiz, which was nice because Luiz got benched, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, 43, overall point 17.57, and then overall rank of 26,500. Let's take a look at Game Week 30. So as I do every game week, I went on Twitter and asked for your questions. And like my local postman, you didn't fail to deliver. So lots of points to get through. And like I said, they kind of revolve around blanks and doubles and stuff like that. But at this point, I think that's fair game. So a lot of people talking about hits in the blanks. And in previous seasons, I've basically said, and a lot of people have as well, that if you take a hit in a blank game week, you take out a player that's not playing and you bring one in, then really that hit's only costing you -2. Because obviously the player that goes out scores no points. The one that comes in, you'd hope, would at least score 2 appearance points. So straight away, that's a -2. And obviously anything they do additional to that is kind of break even or even better in the hit. Now this season's a bit different because of the way the blanks fall, especially if you've got your free hit and wild card. If you take someone out now or next week for a -4, then they've got kind of 2 or 3 game weeks to make it back up in, because a lot of players we're going to be taking out blank in 31 and 33. And obviously the players we bring in, for the most part, maybe not Newcastle players, for example, just yet, we don't know for sure, but they're going to play 2 game weeks. So essentially they're going to make up those appearance points twice. So obviously it all depends who you bring in. For me, I like thinking like that. I like thinking that my hit isn't costing me anything, and trying to get to kind of 10, 11 players in the blank game week is something that I'm definitely going to try and do, because it's essentially attacking the game week or not. And I think a few hits at this time of the year, when people maybe haven't fully planned for the blanks, maybe their team's unorganised, they're not going to have anywhere near 10 or 11 players, the extra hit to get some of these good players in. And there are good players in the blank game weeks. It's not like you're taking out really, really good players and bringing in absolute duds. The Bournemouth players are good, maybe Vardy, Maddison, Chelsea players, Liverpool players, if you've not already tripled up. So there are some good players. So for me, I'm all for hits in the blank. How many you take is up to you. I once took a -16 for one blank game week, and actually came up on top. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but I think a -4, -8, maybe even a -12 to really get your team in gear could be worth it. Now, it does depend what chips you've got. I think if you've got a wildcard free hit, that's much easier. If you don't, then I'd probably reduce the hits a bit, because you've got to worry about the double game weeks and stuff as well. But if you have got those chips, then I'm all for hits personally. Let me know in the comments below if you're completely against them. And then talking about attacking the game week, someone asked me about holding players with value. And this is something I thought really hard and long about this week, because I've got players like Pogba, Jimenez and Doherty. I've got more than 1 point. Basically, if I sold them all and wanted to buy them all back, which I'm not saying I definitely want to do, but there is a chance I might want them later on in the season, it'll cost me more than 1.5 million to buy them back. Now, people have said to me, well, don't worry about value, we're near the end of the season. I do get that, and I do agree. If you've watched my videos and streams before, I don't tend to track value. I don't check who's rising and falling most weeks. But I've got more than 1.5 million for 3 players who I might want. They're going to have double game weeks. I've got to consider that. So for me, you have to look at whether you're going to want them back. So for example, I've got those 3. I want to keep at least 2. Because I think in Game Week 34 on Wildcard, I might want the Wolves players, especially as I got them for 4.4 and 5.5. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Pogba's the one I'm looking at selling, because with Matic and Herrera out, we'll have to see when they're going to come back. He's paying a bit deeper, so he might not be as good an option. Arsenal up next as well, so I'm hoping that he'll drop in price a bit before I need to buy him back on Wildcard, or even get him in the free hit. And also, if you are free hitting, remember, you can only play 11 players. It's not like you're bench boosting. So you can go pretty cheap on the bench if you're confident that your first 11 will play. So that's a way to get money back on the free hit. So for me, it's hard to say for sure whether you should get rid of every player you got value in. So I would check how much value you've got in your squad total when you're going to be wildcarding or free hitting. Which of these players are you going to want back? It's fine to sell 1 or 2 maybe, but if you've got, like me, lots of money invested in lots of players, you've definitely got to consider how hard it will be to get players back. Salah is a big consideration in this, because whether or not you got him when he was cheap or not, he's expensive, and you might not want him from 34 onwards with no double game weeks. And if you're going to get rid of him, that means you've got a lot more money to spread out. If you're going to keep him, the money's going to be tighter, so consider that as well. But I'm all for attacking the game weeks, and I do feel that value probably a little bit less important at this time of the season, but you've still got to take it into consideration. So I think it's important despite what people think, but you know, you can definitely get rid of 1 or 2, especially if you're not going to want them back. There's points to be made in 31 and 33. Don't let the fact it's a blank game week fool you, is what I would say. Bournemouth option. So if you're watching my stream, I was looking at getting Adam Smith potentially. So let's have a quick look at their fixtures. Huddersfield away, Newcastle at home, Leicester away, Burnley at home, Brighton away, Fulham at home, Southampton away. So if you've got no wildcard or free hit, that's a pretty good run of fixtures. And no blank game week. So the blank games in 31 and 33 will be Newcastle at home and Burnley at home. Now, defensive-wise, like I said in the review, Bournemouth are always a team that I think will concede goals. If you look at the last 4 game weeks, they're second for shots conceded in the box and third for total shots, although they have played some really hard games recently. They've just played Liverpool, Wolves, Arsenal and Man City. Last 6 game weeks, 4th for shots in the box, 6 total. The whole season, 8th for shots in the box, which actually isn't too bad, kind of around the middle of the road, and 6th for total shots. And then in home games, which are the home games in 31 and 33, is what they have. They're 5th for shots in the box and 2nd for total. So overall, defensively, not great. And interestingly, if you look at Burnley and Newcastle, who they're playing in those 2 games, they're in bottom 3 for total shots over the whole season. But if you look at Raw recently, obviously Barnes is in good form. They've got Almiron at Newcastle. Rondon's been doing okay as well. Newcastle are actually top for shots inside the box in the last 4 game weeks, and Burnley are 4th. So they're both right up there. And total shots, Newcastle second, Burnley 8th, so a little bit further down. But shots in the box, probably what you're more likely to score from. So defensively, I'm not really sold on them. I was looking at Adam Smith as a cheap option, but when I come to my plans, I'll explain why I'm probably not going to do that. And if you look at goal threat, Nathan Ake, who's someone we see pop up in the box, 1 goal attempt in the last 4. He's 5 million, maybe good for bonus, but I'm not really foreseeing too many clean sheets. So for me, Bournemouth defence, unless you need someone really cheap like Adam Smith at 4.3 million, you could get, there's West Ham defenders around the same price. So I'm not too sure about going for that. Now, in attacking sense, I'm definitely all for it. And they're quite hard to, in recent times, to figure out because they've had a really hard run of fixtures. Wilson's been injured and Brooks has been injured, so it's hard to kind of fully assess them. If you look over the course of the season, Fraser absolutely miles ahead on chances created. But if you look at combined expected assists and expected goals, Brooks is on 7.5 for the season, Fraser's on 9. But Brooks has played far less minutes. Then King's on 7 and Wilson's on 7.5. So Brooks kind of stands out at 5 million. It's a fantastic option. And I think expected goals, only Brooks is on 5 for the season and Wilson on 5.07. And like I say, Brooks had about 500 less minutes than him. So Brooks pretty impressive for me. Fraser does stand out as well. 9 combined expected goals, expected assists over the season, but has played more minutes. So I kind of like Bournemouth attacking options. Josh King has looked okay. Again, tough fixtures, so it's hard to fully assess how he's been. But the fixtures coming are really good, as I just read out. The only thing about Josh King is, if Callum Wilson comes back, we've seen earlier in the season that Wilson was the focal point of that attack, but he wasn't even on the bench last game, so I don't know how quickly he's going to come back into things. But when he does, if he suddenly becomes the central attacking option, and we see Josh King maybe get pushed wide, even if they start with 2 up front, what happened earlier in the season was Josh King would have to go wide, and Wilson would be kind of the guy in the box central all the time. So that does worry me a little bit about King. If you compare him, you've got people like Barnes or Rondon up front, so King might be the best option there. But I think Brooks, if you're strapped for cash at 5 million, is a great option. You could even put him as a 5th midfielder and kind of rotate him in your squad, so you don't have to play him every week. And especially if you've not got wildcard or free hit, like I've got Punching as my 5th mid. If you could spare a bit of extra cash, then Brooks looks good. Maybe Fraser if you fancy a punt on him and you got a bit more cash to spare, but I think the fact that Brooks was maybe not rushed back, but he was straight back into the team after his injury shows how important he is, and I expect him to get good minutes over the next bit. So Bournemouth for me, defence probably not sold on, attack definitely. I think Brooks and King right now look good, but if Wilson comes back, he could not only become an option but also potentially make King a worse option. Which Chelsea defender? So there's lots to talk about Chelsea defenders because they've got good fixtures. Wolves at home, Everton away, Cardiff away and West Ham at home. So it's Everton away and West Ham at home in the blank. So I'm looking at getting one of them in. Obviously, Luiz missed the last game, has played quite a bit recently. There's a bit of talk about him not being able to play 3 games in quick succession, which is potentially an issue. But I quite like Luiz. I think he's still my favourite out of all of them. Azpilicueta, 3 assists in the last 4 games. But only created 3 chances, so you'd say that's probably not sustainable. Doesn't mean he's not going to get any more assists, but you'd probably want him to be creating a few more chances to guarantee it. And then if you look at bonus points, they're all very similar for the last 4 games. Rudiger is just ahead of Azpilicueta and Luiz, who are very close together. Alonso, I just think for his price, he's not doing enough attacking wise, and there's no guarantee that he's going to play week to week, so he'd be a worry for me. So it really comes down to Azpilicueta, Luiz and Rudiger. They're all very close on bonus points. Luiz and Rudiger are slightly cheaper. Generally, Azpilicueta is a great tackler. You see him get a lot of bonus points for that in the past, so maybe he'll come out on top. But I'm finding it really hard to split them. Luiz has got 3 goal attempts, Azpilicueta 1, Rudiger 0. If I watch the games, then Luiz, I quite like his range of passing when he comes forward. We've seen him get assists, open play, and he can attack the ball from corners, from free kicks, and sometimes he even takes free kicks. So Luiz is still my favourite. The only thing is, if you've got a bit of worry over him starting and not being able to start games too quickly, then maybe he will miss out. So for me, I'm still looking at David Luiz, but I think Azpilicueta is suddenly at the last minute starting to rise and come into people's thinking. Rudiger, he seems fine as an option. I really can't think of too much to split them all, to be honest. But I'm definitely looking at a Chelsea defender because I think they'll do well over the next 4 weeks. And then kind of moving on from Chelsea defence to Chelsea attack, Higuain versus Vardy. So this is really interesting because over the last kind of 4 matches, Vardy has played 60 less minutes, but he's had half the amount of goal attempts. So Higuain has had 19, Vardy's had 9, although their expected goals are quite similar. We've seen that with Vardy. He doesn't get many chances, but he does tend to put them away and get into good positions when he does. But Higuain's also created more chances. So obviously he's a little bit more expensive. We're looking at, I think it's about 0.6, 0.7 more. But I'm now looking at Higuain because I just think there's a chance that Chelsea maybe go on a little bit of a run now, a little bit of a confidence booster recently with the Spurs win. They've just beaten Fulham and they've got good fixtures to come. I've already got Hazard in, so I'm thinking of going for Higuain. Fixtures-wise, they're quite similar. If you discount Game Week 32, maybe if you're on a free hit, then Chelsea have Liverpool away in a few weeks, and Leicester don't, basically. They have a pretty good run. But apart from that one fixture, which is in 30, 31, 32, 33, Game Week 34, between now and Game Week 33, especially if you're wildcarding, the fixtures are very similar. So I think Higuain's going to get more chances. Obviously, there's a chance that Giroud might play, but I just don't really see that right now. Chelsea need all the points they can get. Higuain's kind of Sarri's boy, and it's probably the best striker they got at the club. So I think he's going to keep playing. I think you'll see him start, maybe not always to 90 minutes, but start week in, week out. So I'm slightly going towards Higuain now. But I still like Vardy, and Vardy's on penalties, which is nice. And obviously, hopefully, as Rodgers gets a bit more time with the team, he'll kind of put his stamp on it. And hopefully improve them. Like I said, even though Vardy doesn't get too many touches and too many chances, he does tend to convert pretty well. So I think they're quite close. Take your pick. Let me know what you think. I am going to get one of these in, not till next week, but right now I'm siding with Higuain. I'll see if that changes by Game Week 31. We'll see what happens this week. Vardy has Fulham, so if you're getting one in this week, I quite like Vardy playing Fulham. And then free hit Game Week 31 players. I mean, this is for people at free hitting in 31. There's loads of players to choose from. I like triple up on Chelsea. Higuain has a plus a defender. Triple Liverpool's an absolute must. If I look at West Ham, goalkeeper-wise, I quite like Fabianski. Leicester, Vardy, maybe if you're going 3 up front and you can afford it, and Maddison there as well. Not sure about Leicester defence, to be honest, at the moment. I think Burnley will probably score in that game with the form that Barnes is in. And then Bournemouth, again, like I said, I like their attack. So it depends, if you're looking at striker-wise, maybe Higuain, Vardy plus Josh King or Barnes, and then fill the midfield. You could even go 4-5-1 or something like that if you wanted. Some people are talking about triple Liverpool defence. I quite like that as a differential, but obviously Salah and Mane, really good captain options in Game Week 31 because they're playing Fulham. So lots of players to choose from if you're going on a free hit. I think it probably won't look too dissimilar to what people are building right now. So definitely triple Liverpool and triple Chelsea I think would be top of my list. And then lastly, captaincy. So I think Man City looked the best this week. I've got slight hesitation about Aguero because he played last week when we thought Jesus might. So now I'm thinking even more, well, Jesus will probably play this week. But Aguero gets a week rest, probably needs a bit of game time to be able to play well in the Champions League as well. So I think Aguero will probably start. So he's my favourite captain alongside Sterling. Salah I'm just a little bit worried about right now. I know there's going to be that game week where he goes nuts, but if you look at the stats and the amount of points he's been getting recently, he's been really poor. And Burnley, yes, they've got heated in goal, but they've conceded a couple of goals or 3 goals to Crystal Palace at the weekend. So I'm not quite sure about the defensive capabilities, especially against Liverpool. So if Liverpool can click, I think Salah will do really well again, as we've seen before. But I definitely favour Man City, and that's who I'm going to captain this week. Other options, really Chelsea against Everton is probably from the big boys, if you want to go for a Hazard at Higuain. But I just think Liverpool and Man City are far on top this week. And then my plans originally, like I said, I was going to look at Adam Smith, but this is what I'm probably going to do now. Pogba out and Bednarak out for Maddison or Harvey Barnes, not quite decided that. And then Bednarak to David Luiz, and then the week after I'll do Aguero to Vardy or Higuain, and then punch into Brooks, and that'll give me 11 players for a -4. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get rid of Pogba this week. I know he could punish me, but 2 blanks coming up in 31 and 33. Arsenal could be a tough game. It could be tight. We saw what they did against Spurs. That was a pretty close game. So it could be the same with Man United. So Yes, I've got value tied up in him, but it's just one player. I've got lots of money tied up in Jimenez and Doherty. I'm going to keep them for now. I don't need to play Doherty this week. By bringing in Louise, it means I can bench Schindler and keep him for the blanks. And it also means I can keep Wan-Bissaka, who I was thinking of getting rid of. And I just think that's a really good fixture this week. So I'm going to keep him. I'll leave it there. Hopefully it wasn't too rambly. Hopefully it wasn't too quick. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. As always, much appreciated. Subscribe if you're new around here. And you'll find out when the next stream and videos are. I'll be streaming on Thursday at 9 PM, so make sure to tune in for that. Leave a comment below, anything that I've said that you think is rubbish, good, you agree, disagree, or you got any questions. Always happy to hear from you. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Good luck in the next game week.